definitely wanted it though.
Jerkbait fishing, cold water, some bass. I'm Bob Murray, this is Delaware Valley Outdoors. Stay tuned, it's going to be a good one. But
it's a fish. What we're saying about 1.5, 2 feet of water?
Yeah. Springtime, cold bass. We got about 50-degree water temp. I'm out here with my good friend Warren Brady, and he talked me into going jerkbait fishing.
Nothing like jerkbait fishing in the early spring, right, Bob?
And we're just catching just little males that are moving up. We're going to move around today and see if we can find some bigger females and stuff like that. And we should do okay. We're going to try jerkbaits, and we're going to try some jigs and maybe some rattle traps too. They seem to be hitting pretty good. We got a little bit of wind, so we got to
try and stay out of the wind, stay in these back protected coves.
That's it.
Little males always move up first, so
yeah.
we got lucky. We'll catch into some of the bigger females.
Yeah. All right, let's put this dog back and get some more.
All right.
For these cold temperatures, or I should say, well, water's cold. It's early spring, and we're going to be using a variety of baits, but one of the best baits to use is a suspending jerkbait. They come in a variety of sizes, colors. You try to match basically the fish that you have in your body of water. Some like an orange belly with a black back. Some guys like a fire tiger color. So it all depends on your preference and what the baits that you feel. And what you want to do with a suspending jerkbait is just cast it out, and then you're going to just jerk it. Pause, pull, jerk, pause, and just let it sit there. And what that does, when you jerk it, it goes like this, and then it just stays at that level. It doesn't float up, it doesn't float down, it just stays there, and that suspends like that, and it kind of wiggles a little bit like that. And you're going to have to work on the cadence. Sometimes it's jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause, or it may be three jerks and then a pause, but you're going to have to make that pause the most important thing, because that's when the fish is going to spot the bait, and when it pauses and it's just sitting there, then that fish will come up, and usually it comes up off the bottom and then smacks at it. A lot of times, especially when you're fishing for smallmouths, what you'll do is you'll find you catch them in the side of the face, because what they'll do is they'll come up and just slap at it, and you'll catch them, because with the quality of baits they have today, the Smithwicks and the Rapalas and stuff like that, the hooks on them are so sharp. You got 3 sets of hooks, but that's what you want to do. You got to vary your cadence and just cast it out, jerk, jerk, pause, and when that pause, that's when I think you get ready. And then when you move your bait again, that's when that fish is going to hit. Again, variety of sizes. I'm using a bigger one today, hopefully just to attract a bigger fish, but you can go down to small suspending jerk baits, and they work really well. Oh man, like a ton of bricks. Actually, I don't. Just got the wind knocked out of me. Come here. Now here is a prime example of what I was saying about these fish coming and swatting at it. That fish just swatted this bait. Never touched his mouth, obviously. They came along and swatted it. Hey, look, we got a double.
And this is what we're talking about. You never know what you're going to get in the springtime with multi-species.
But that's it. It's a nice fit, nice little male. Again, let's just talk a little bit about, Warren, the fish. That's a nice perch. The fish will be moving up into these areas. Now we're in like an area with some stumps and stuff like that. And these males, now will these males make beds around the stumps, or will they near the stumps, or just off of them someplace?
They'll go right next to the stumps, Bob. They'll make them right next to the stumps, up against them, in between them, in the root system of the stumps. Speaking of which, I got to kind of pay attention so we don't run into any more.
Oh, I'll put this one back. Oops. That's a nice little fish. But again, he just slapped right at it. That's why the hooks on these things are unbelievably sharp. But again, what I was doing was pausing it and just letting it sit there. And that's basically what it was, is you have to let that fish, or let the bait pause, and then that fish will come right up and just smack at it. So let's see if we can get back in here and get some more.
Yeah.
Warren.
Another jerkbait bass. Another small male moving up into that shallow water.
Right into this 2 to 3 feet water, just sitting down in there. Good thing. Let me get my reel in here.
And they hooked themselves really good.
These pliers?
Yeah, let me get those pliers. Thank you. Another little small male jerk bait. Let's see if we can't get into some of the bigger females.
Maybe we can. Again, what we're doing, we're going across these areas and just fan casting. Really, we're not looking for anything specific. We just got the right water temperature. We got 50-degree water temperature, and we're just trying to go. The other thing we have to mention, though, it's a tad windy here, and it's a little difficult to feel sometimes, or at least set the hook on a fish, because you're holding your balance, and Warren's doing a heck of a job just trying to keep us from blowing across the water here.
Yeah, I think they said we're hitting 35-mile-an-hour gusts today, so.
Yeah. But this is what you get when you come out in springtime, and it's the fact that the weather changes, the wind conditions come up, and so you have to bear with it sometimes. But that wind sometimes will blow that warmer water up into coves and stuff like that, and you can find 2-degree different water, and boy, you could really turn into some good fishing.
There's another one.
All right. Warren, did you switch colors or
Nope. I kept with the gold and black. I pretty much just increased the size a little bit, and like you were saying about the way they slap at it.
Yeah.
You got both sets of hooks in them.
Yeah. Again, these are just little males coming up ready to. Need the pliers again?
Yeah, let me get this one more time. Yeah. And of course, I put a new fresh coat of Mega Strike on.
That'll
Which
do
never
it.
hurts.
That'll do it. There we go. Another little bait.
Another little small male.
It's amazing how the size of the bait you're using to the size of the fish, they really are just striking at it.
Yep, that's what happens is that water temperature starts to increase. Those smaller males, they start to get more aggressive, and they'll just come up and slap at anything that gets in their way when they're getting ready to get into that spawn mode.
The wind has increased considerably, so we ducked into a little cove. We still have about 50-degree water, and we changed our tactics. We just couldn't use our jerkbait bite anymore out there. It was just too much for us to hold. So we came into this cove, and we're up on a piece of structure here that has a lot of wood and stuff like that. Warren, tell us why this would hold fish.
Well, when bass come in to spawn, they're going to come up to an area that has like a gravel, sandy bottom to it, but they also want to be around structure. So they're going to set their beds up around these kind of dock areas here, also around some of the fallen timber. And, you know, this is where we have to switch our tactics up a little bit. It gets a little windy. They like to get out of the wind sometimes as well. So we're going to come in. You're throwing like a Senko type bait. I've got just a standard 1/4 ounce jig head with a creature bait on it. And this is just something we're going to try and see if we can't get one of those bigger females up around this type of structure.
And a lot of times during these spring days, the females might be out here in, what do we have, about 5 feet of water. And as the water warms and the sunlight comes in, they'll actually just move up under those docks because the docks and the wood get warmer.
Yeah.
So they'll just sit up into there and just relax and just move up and down. And then when they feel uncomfortable, then they'll move back down to the deeper water.
Yeah, once the water temperature starts to warm up, your areas that have your wood and your rock are going to naturally heat up the water faster because they do retain the heat a lot better. So that's another reason that they're going to move up underneath of this wood over here.
One of the ways to, I mean, we're pitching a bait up in there and just letting it fall by the pilings, and we're just picking it apart. We had a little bit more time and space here. We could get up there and skip those baits way up underneath the boards up there. A lot of times that's where the fish will be holding, but a lot of times they'll be pulled out here. So we're just going to flip and pitch all the way down here along this bank up here, see if we can catch something.
Oh, I got a hit, Bob. There's one.
Get him. There you go.
Go. When all else fails, go to Old Faithful.
Warren, tell us what you did here.
You see, we're just fishing a basic shoreline with some timber. We're dealing with 50-degree water temps, throwing just a standard jig and a creature bait, getting a little bit better
again,
fish.
You got to just talk about it. The fact that the size of the fish we're catching are about that same buck bank bass, if you were going to call it.
Yeah.
It's just all about in that same range. And again, most of the time, the bass are just going to be, they're moving up, that's all. We haven't been able to find those big fish yet. You know, we got time, but one of those things where just pitching and up into this wood now, we did the jerkbait thing, but we're going to try a little bit this with some plastics. And, you never know, you might catch that 4-pounder then.
You might get that female that moved up right behind the small males.
Right.
It does happen. Springtime, we're in late March. We've got water temperatures in the high 40s to low 50s, so the fish aren't quite that active yet. So what we're throwing is just a small size to medium size suspending jerkbait. And what that helps to do is it helps trigger that fish that may not be quite active enough to hit a faster moving bait like a rattle trap or a spinner bait. Mm-hmm. So you kind of work it, you twitch it, and then you pause it. And one of the things you want to do is you want to gauge the pause based upon what the fish are telling you. You know, sometimes they'll want a long pause where you got to sit there and actually count 1,000, 1,000, and let it sit there for those really inactive fish. As the water temperature starts to get up over that 50-degree mark and the fish get a little more active, that's when they'll start to hit, when you start a little bit faster retrieve, slower pauses, and a little more of an erratic behavior. And that's also when the rattle trap, like you were throwing a little earlier, and the spinnerbait come into play.
Now, these fish are pre-spawn fish. They're getting ready. Where would they be sitting? Are they going to be? I mean, we've got some wood in front of us. We got some stumps behind us. We've got some rock over there. Are they going to be up close? Are they going to be setting back? Or how do we?
Well, we got to try each area of the water column. You know, sometimes you want to start up along the bank in the wood, throw in a jig or a soft plastic like a brush hog like you've got tied on over there. Then you want to work your way out into the deeper water. Usually you'll find that the smaller males will move up before the females, a little bit ahead of them. Like we caught a couple of the smaller roaming males earlier on the jerkbait. And you know, when you get lucky enough, once the females start to move up to follow the males, you know, they usually sit back in a little bit of a deeper water right on that first drop. So it's usually typical to what what the average water depth is. So it could be something as subtle as a 1 foot difference in depth that's going to hold those larger pre-spawn females. And once you get those males starting to go up shallow and search out areas to bed, you have those females not too far behind. So what we're doing is we're starting to fish this timber area here. You've got some timber. Over here to the left, you've got some rock, and you know, we're going to see if we can pick anything up off of that structure. And then as we drift further back out, we hit that first area of the drop where it drops into deeper water, and we'll see where we can find them.
All right, let's go.
And now for a closer look at today's tackle, Delaware Valley Outdoors presents the Tackle Box. For more information about the tackle used on today's show, go to DelawareValleyOutdoors.com.
Warren, we're here at the Tackle Box, and it's a tough time in the springtime. The bite could be good, or the bite could be
not so good.
Not so good. We caught fish. We proved that we can catch fish today. We didn't catch the size of the fish we wanted to catch today, but again, Mother Nature wasn't too nice to us. We got blown out of the spots that we really wanted to fish. Talk just a little bit about how important those spots are to be able to stay on.
Well, it's really important to fish it, especially this time of year since we are in late March. You know, we still have water temperatures that are hovering 50 degrees, just below, just above. The bass haven't completely moved to the shallow waters yet. They're still what we call pre-spawn and staging areas. So the main areas that we were attempting to fish with our jerkbait pattern today was the first area, the first drop off into the first area of deeper water in front of the shallow flats. And because we got hammered with 35-mile-an-hour winds out there, it made it a little tough to hold those positions. So we had to come up with an alternate game plan, which we did, and we were pretty successful with.
We had to just get out of the wind, and then we found same scenarios except out of the wind a little bit, but not as what we really wanted to. All right, let's talk about this. It was a jerkbait bite that we really attempted to do.
Yes.
Now, this is one of your favorites. Tell me about this bait here.
That's a Rapala X-Rap. Just a plain and simple gold and black. It has orange and red feathers on the trailer hook on the back end, and I do really well with it. On what we had today was mostly overcast today with the cloud and the weather blowing in, so I tried to throw the natural gold with black on there. Had we had a lot more sunshine, I would have thrown a more natural silver with black, or silver with blue, chrome blue, any of those patterns.
Now, this is a size...
That's a 4-inch that we were using on the larger end. And sometimes we figured the water temperature, when we found the colder water, I wanted to downsize a little bit, so I went to the 3-inch.
Now, it's important to have a variety of these sizes too, because sometimes this will just knock the living daylights out of them, where a big one they won't even touch.
Right.
Or just the opposite, they won't touch the little ones, but they'll really key in on this one. The other thing about these, we caught a variety of species on these today.
Yes, they do work for just about everything, as we showed. We got largemouth bass, we got a couple pickerel, yellow perch. Right. So, you know, we get a little bit of everything today. And
one of the other baits that we talked about using today was a lipless crankbait. Now, this is a really cool color. Chrome and blue, right?
Chrome and blue. That is a Lucky Craft lipless crankbait. That one particularly I've done well with, especially in this water. I would have used that if we have come into some water temperatures closer to the mid-50s. I would have used that because at that point the fish would have been searching for food. They would have been in a little bit more of an aggressive mood, and I think we could have got a better bite on the lipless crankbait had the temperatures and the water been where we needed them to be.
And you can cover a lot more water with this one.
Oh, absolutely. Just casting, fan casting as you're moving the boat around, and cover a lot more water, catch those aggressive fish.
Now, when you're casting this, are you just casting and retrieving, or are you ripping it through the weeds, or are you letting it sink, or how do you work this?
A little bit of all of the above. I'll start out just reeling it in at a steady retrieve. If that doesn't seem to work, I'll give it a little bit of a spinnerbait motion where I'll kind of pull it, reel in the slack, pull it again. I'll also use a technique where I let it get caught in the grass and rip it out of the grass. You really have to attempt every different way to do it and try everything and see what the fish tell you they want.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't fish this bait as early as they really should. This is a lot of people think this is a warm bait, you know, warm time bait. Okay, so we had to switch gears again because we got blown off of everything. And again, in the springtime, you can still throw plastic baits. A jig would be fine, and you threw commonly called a creature bait, right?
Yep, that's a plain simple Yamamoto creature bait in watermelon black. And it's pretty simple. I threw it on a regular standard jig head and flipped it into the timber. And we caught a couple fish on it. You know, we attempted to fish the stumps, isolated stumps. We fished laydowns, and it seemed that once we got in the cove out of the wind, I key in out of the wind, then we were able to sit down and try to pick it apart, and that's where we got into the success with the fish and the trees.
Right, and that was the wood that they were just laying around. Again, probably just waiting to make their nest there, to spawn, or just hanging on those stumps. And it's warmer there.
Yeah, that wood's going to keep that water temperature a degree warmer than out of it.
Right.
And that's what those small male bass that we were catching, that's what their job is at this time of the year. They go around and they search for those areas where they can make the beds, and the females kind of hang back in that deeper water until the water temperature, like we were saying, gets up in the mid-50s, up around that 60-degree mark. That's when you really have that influx of the bigger females get into the shallow waters.
And then the soft stick baits here, we got the old Senko lookalikes, or whatever we want to call them. Again, wacky rigging it, just throwing it in there. Again, that slow presentation will just bring those bass off of that stuff.
Yep, it doesn't pose a threat to them. It's a slow presentation. It's a subtle presentation. And again, with the water temps floating around 50 degrees, just below, just above, the bass aren't really moving to search for food.
Right.
They're more in an ambush kind of, I'll hit it if it's right in front of me type of
Right,
movement.
and as this thing just glides down through that water column, they're able to pick that up and they'll just pick it up and walk away. Okay, now, the secret when you have these soft baits is a little bit of this stuff. It's called Mega Strike. This is important to have at this time of the year, not all the other times of the year, but now this is really good because this will get the fish to hold on to. Tell us a little bit about Mega Strike.
Well, Mega Strike is biologically engineered to keep the fish holding on. It's made up of proteins and amino acids. It's not an oil-based, so you're not going to get that oil slick on top of the water. It's a gel formula, and it really works out well the way that it works to get the fish to hold on. It's basically tricking the fish into thinking that what it's holding on to is alive, because the fish know they need those amino acids and proteins to survive, and when they hit your lure and they sense those amino acids and proteins are there, they assume that it's real and they hold on to it.
And they will hold on
and
to
on a
it.
day like today, when you need every edge you can possibly get, we see that it worked well.
And it does, and it's easy to apply. You just take the cap and just add it on there and just,
Yep.
You don't need a whole lot.
I put a drop on my finger about the size of a pea, you know, something real small, and I just rub it on the Senko, or I was even putting it on the jerk baits today. The one thing that's nice about it is it's good for everything. You can use it on hard baits, you can use it on plastics, and it really does make a difference, as we saw today.
And I've used it in a lot of times on the soft plastics, and it has made the difference a lot of times when you will catch that tougher fish because it holds on to that stuff. Right, now I'm going to talk about something else tough. Your great boat here. It's a jet boat, good for fishing smallmouth in the river, which I do know. About seeing you catch fish, at least that much.
The one day the camera's not there.
The rhino liner that you have in this boat, talk about a little bit about it. I think this is unbelievable for a boat that you use like this.
Well, it is great. I use it with guiding on the river. I have people on the boat all the time. You know, when I originally bought the boat, there was a vinyl material on it. It kept peeling off. It was getting very cumbersome to try to maintain. The one thing that's nice about the rhino liner is it's permanent. It's in here for good. It has a lifetime warranty with it, and it gets a little tacky. So even if it's wet, you have a fish on board, it's raining out, you don't have to worry about slipping and sliding all over an aluminum boat. It actually will work well with keeping your feet planted. Yeah,
and it's actually, it's kind of weird because you're in an aluminum boat, but it's actually makes you soft. It feels, it's rugged. I mean, you can't hurt this.
No, it's in there, it's permanent, and it's rugged, it's rough, it's durable. I mean, I've thrown stuff in here, you know, throwing coolers in here loaded with ice, with fish, my herring tank when we're striper fishing, and it just takes a beating. And I can't speak too highly about it. It's a great thing.
Yeah, because when you first put it in, I was amazed at how it came, because I'd been in both sides of your boat, the other stuff and this. One of the things that I want to get back to before we end is that the rod that you're going to throw these baits on. Talk a little bit about the fishing rod that you would
Sure.
About that.
I try to throw with a jerkbait bite. I try to throw about a 7-foot medium action rod. It's got a nice fast taper to it, so if a fish comes up and does hit it, and you're in the process of, you know, your jerk pause, you're not going to pull that lure out of his mouth because it's got that medium action to it. I'm not going to fish a very stiff rod with a jerkbait, just like a crankbait rod. And, you know, 7-foot medium action. I was throwing 12-pound test on a spinning reel, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, the spinning reel is probably the best way to go with the jerkbait situation. You can do it with a regular reel, but I think the spinning reels work much better for that. And again, I do want to emphasize that that tip is really important with that, because if you have a real stiff fishing rod, it's not going to let that fish, the bait wiggle.
No, it's not going to allow that bait to have the action that you want. That nice soft tip as you're jerking and pausing is really getting that bait to kind of scatter off side to side and make it look like it's a bait fish in distress, which is in turn going to trigger the reaction in the bass and the pike and the pickerel.
And all the stuff that we caught. And that's the tackle box.
Well, Bob, as we were talking about getting lucky and having some of the little bit of a bigger fish in this cover here.
Yeah, they're just the males that are still sticking up in there.
Yep.
Hey, Warren, I want to thank you an awful lot, my friend.
Anytime.
And we had a good time. Again, when you're out here, it's springtime, conditions are tough, but again, what Warren had mentioned before was you got to try different things and let the fish talk to you a little bit. We had a jerkbait bite going, but we got blown off, and so we had to switch. So we back into a cove, and we're flipping some creature baits and some Senko type baits, and it's working out. Hey, I'm Bob Murray. I'll see you on the water. All right, Warren.
All right.